Hello, my name is Reverend Dr. May Elise Cannon. Today is Friday, June 20th, 2025. Today is day 623 since October 7th of 2023. Today is World Refugee Day. Every year on June 20th, World Refugee Day, it reminds us of the strength, the resilience, and the hopes of millions who've been forced to flee from their homes due to conflict, persecution, or disaster. The refugee population of Palestinians is more than 6 million refugees around the world. Refugees from the Nakba in 1948, 1967, subsequent wars between Palestinians and Israelis. We also acknowledge the refugees of Jews who were forced out of Arab countries during some of those subsequent wars as well. World Refugee Day. We remember refugees around the world. Yesterday, an Iranian missile struck the Soroka Medical Center in Israel on Thursday. It was said that 271 people were injured in Israel yesterday, including 4 who had serious injuries. And the strike on that particular hospital left around 80 people injured. Iran's official news agency said that Tehran was targeting the headquarters of IDF's technological unit in an intelligence camp that was located near the hospital. Israeli officials said the strike is an example of Iran targeting civilians. The defense minister of Israel, Israel Katz, said that he has instructed the military to intensify strikes against strategic targets in Iran and government sites in Tehran. CMEP does condemn the attacks on any medical centers, including the bombardment of the Soroka Medical Complex, where more than 250 people were injured, just the way that CMEP joins alongside international humanitarian agencies condemning the more than 700 attacks on health officials and health centers, including aerial bombardments by Israel of hospitals and health clinics and ambulances since October 7th of 2023 in Gaza. Over 1,500 health workers, 460 aid workers have been killed in the Gaza Strip over the past 19 plus months. Hospitals and medical centers in Israel and the occupied Palestinian territories and everywhere have to be protected as safe places where healing can occur without fear of bombardment and war. Today was the 8th consecutive day of bombing between Iran and Israel as intensive fire continued. On this Friday, Iranian missiles struck Israeli cities. Israeli jets pounded targets across Iran, despite diplomatic efforts, which increased significantly. A missile launched from Iran early today damaged several buildings in the South Israel city of Beersheba, where a strike the day before had hit a major medical center that had been largely evacuated. About 9 hours later, a missile from a volley of some 35 struck an abandoned building in downtown Haifa, which is Israel's 3rd largest city, that caused extensive damage to surrounding buildings, including a mosque. A readout from this afternoon from the New York Times stated that there was a day of talks that involved representatives from Iran and European nations. It took place in Geneva. It broke up with no signs of a breakthrough. There were top diplomats who put forward significant efforts to avert a dangerous escalation in a conflict that's lasted now more than a week. Of course, between Israel and Iran, Iran sent a barrage of missiles into Israel on Friday today, striking several cities. According to Israeli broadcasters and the country's main emergency services, Israel announced that they conducted overnight strikes. I just was speaking to a friend in Bethlehem tonight. And of course, Palestinians in the occupied territories don't have the protection of the Iron Dome. They don't have security locations. They don't have safe rooms to go to. She said that the location she was in, she said that the missile strikes were so strong, it felt like the building just shook. Both sides traded fire as diplomats from Britain, France, Germany, and the EU were meeting with an Iranian delegation in Switzerland to try to cool the conflict. Expectations for that meeting were restrained given the ongoing strikes in Israel and Iran and the wide gaps between Iran and the U.S. in their now suspended negotiations related to Iran's nuclear program. Before the talks began, Iran's foreign minister, Araghchi, said that Tehran was not interested in negotiating an end to the war until Israel stops attacking. The meeting ended hours later with statements that appeared to signal some optimism and urgency. We're keen to continue the discussions and negotiations. We urge Iran to continue their talks with the U.S., said Britain's Foreign Secretary David Lammy. This is a perilous moment, and it's hugely important that we don't see regional escalations to the conflict, he said. France's foreign minister spoke in similarly general terms, saying there's no military solution to the Iranian nuclear problem. President Trump set a new deadline of 2 weeks before he's going to make the decision of whether or not to join Israel's aerial campaign against military and nuclear sites in Iran. As we talked about yesterday and past days, the U.S. has been defending Israel by knocking missiles out of the sky. So the U.S. has been playing a defensive role, but has not joined in the offense. European diplomats plan to deliver an urgent message to Mr. Araghchi that his government must make significant concessions in their nuclear program. Some other things to know: that there have been new attacks between Israel and Iran, with intensifier on this eighth consecutive day. Iran state broadcasters reported that overnight Israeli strikes targeted an industrial complex in their north provinces on the coast of the Caspian Sea. In Israel, a missile from the Valley, as I mentioned, struck downtown Haifa. Street protests across the Middle East happened today as tens of thousands of people poured into the streets of Iran, Iraq, and Lebanon after midday prayers. In Tehran, people trampled and burned American and Israeli flags. There were videos that you could see online. If Mr. Trump decides to send American bombers to help Israel destroy an uranium enrichment facility in Iran, it will likely initiate a more dangerous phase of the war. Analysts have been talking about what that might look like in terms of international news. The big issue is that Israel does not have the bunker bombs or the planes to be able to drop them, to be able to destroy Iran's nuclear capabilities. Major oil producers in the Persian Gulf, including Saudi Arabia, have been racing to load tankers with exports, possibly as a hedge against the possibility that fighting could spread to oil export installations that have been largely spared thus far, or that shipping could be disrupted through the Strait of Hormuz. A church in Haifa was destroyed by an Iranian missile today. The Church of Our Lady in the House of Grace, a halfway house associated with the church, experienced damage by an explosive blast that was caused by an Iranian missile that slammed into downtown Haifa, according to the director of the halfway house. He said colored glass windows in the church were shattered. The church building was erected in 1862, and the windows were almost 100 years old. President Trump said that based on the fact there's a substantial chance of negotiations that may or may not take place with Iran in the near future, that he would make his decision in the next 2 weeks. He'd previously told aides he had approved of an attack plan for Iran, but was holding off in the hopes that Tehran would abandon their nuclear program. Iran's foreign minister said that Iran does not want to negotiate with anyone until Israel ends their attacks, adding that the U.S. wants to negotiate and has sent messages several times, but we have clearly said there's no room for talking until this aggression stops. Iran has yet to decide whether or not to construct a nuclear bomb, even though it has a large stockpile of enriched uranium that is necessary to do so. That's according to U.S. intelligence sources. Iranian leaders are likely to shift towards producing a bomb if the U.S. military attacks a main uranium enrichment site, or if Israel kills their supreme leader, Ali Khamenei. Shamkhani, Khamenei's top aide, who was declared dead by Israel last week, has proclaimed himself alive and in stable condition, Iranian state media reported today. And Israel carried out the targeted killing of a scientist and nuclear expert in Tehran today, according to an Israeli official, stating that it struck dozens of military targets in Iran overnight and a critical component of Iran's nuclear program. In Israel, 7 people were injured by missile strikes in Beersheba. As I mentioned previously, Israeli jets bombed a nuclear reactor under construction in central Iran to stop it from being used in nuclear weapons development. In Lebanon, the Israeli military said today that it struck Hezbollah targets in the south of the country, a day after the Iran-backed group's leader, Naim Qassem, said that it would act as they see fit. Hezbollah has thus far stayed out of the conflict between Israel and Iran. But in a statement, the Israeli military said that Hezbollah attempts to reestablish activity in these sites near the city of Nabatea. Israel and Hezbollah have agreed to a ceasefire in November, but Israel has not withdrawn from 5 different locations in the south of Lebanon. Each side has accused the other of violating the truce. Meanwhile, in Gaza, Israeli forces killed at least 12 Palestinians that were waiting for aid in central Gaza, according to reports, and the U.S. and Israeli-backed Gaza Humanitarian Foundation denied that there were any incidents at their sites. Israeli military told Reuters that soldiers fired warning shots after, quote, suspects attempted to approach their forces in the area. Their forces are present where food is being distributed. In the United States, Mahmoud Khalil must be released on bail, federal judge ordered. A Columbia graduate and legal permanent resident has been held in Louisiana for over 3 months, and the judge found reason to believe that it was retaliation for his pro-Palestinian speech. The U.S. government accused Mahmoud Khalil of fomenting anti-Semitism, despite his statements disavowing it. The ruling is a major victory and a relief for Mr. Khalil, a Columbia University graduate, a legal permanent U.S. resident who played a leading role in demonstrations at the school's campus this past year. The judge is a federal district court judge in Newark, said during a 2-hour hearing that he'd been persuaded by Mr. Khalil's arguments that his detention was an unlawful retaliation against his pro-Palestinian speech. And Pope Leo has appealed to Iranian and Israeli leaders to step back from war and to engage in dialogue for the common good. He, during a speech in front of an audience last week, said no one should ever threaten another one's existence. In these days, news continues to arrive that causes great concern. The situation in Iran and Israel has seriously deteriorated, and at such a delicate moment, I wish to strongly renew an appeal to responsibility and reason. His Holiness upheld the need for commitment to build a safer world, free from a nuclear threat that must be pursued through respectful encounters and sincere dialogue, in order to build a lasting peace founded on justice, fraternity, and the common good. No one should ever threaten another's existence, he said. It is the duty of all countries to support the cause of peace by initiating paths of reconciliation and promoting solutions that guarantee security and dignity for all. May it be so, in the name of Christ. Amen.